Edition of Trailblazer Weekly. We catch you up on all the weekend's basketball results, and with baseball season just days away, head coach Chris Fatenhauer joins us for a season preview.
Plus, women's basketball assistant coach Nicole Yazzie joins us, and later in the show to discuss the Trailblazers' weekend split and the huge win at Western Colorado.
It's all coming up next here on Trailblazer Weekly, so strap in your seatbelts. It all starts right now.
Live from the CEC studio at Dixie State University, it's Trailblazer Weekly with Keric Seegmiller. And Drayson Ball. This is Trailblazer Weekly.
We are live inside the CEC TV studios on the Community Education Channel, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM, and the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page with another edition of Trailblazer Weekly. I'm Keric Seegmiller, and joining me, as always, is Drayson Ball. Drayson, there's that big game coming up this weekend, and I put quotes around it because that's all we're allowed to say. We can't really say what it's called on the air because of sponsors or something like that. But big game this weekend. What are your plans? You making some nachos? You making some dip? What are your big game traditions?
I mean, I am a big proponent of nachos, but I think it'd be best to put those nachos in like a bowl, like a super bowl, something like that. I don't know, like a very large bowl. Put some nachos in and just be able to last me throughout the entire game.
Last you throughout the entire game. Maybe some soup,
right,
or some salad in a bowl.
Exactly.
Something like that. Anyway, there's some big football game happening this weekend, and predictions on the game. You got to go with the GOAT.
31-27 Patriots win.
Yeah, I think unfortunately New England's gonna take this one. All this year, I'm actually pulling for New England to win this one. That's the first time in my life, but after the Saints got jobbed the way they did, we have to go that way. But I mean, it's not for our football season anymore. Although I should say, football signing day is next week. So we're efforting, we're gonna do everything we can to get new Dixie State football coach Paul Peterson on the show next week, and hopefully maybe have a little bit of a signing day special. It's still in the works. At our show time at 3, they still have letters coming in. They're still, it's a busy signing day. So we'll see if we can get him. If not that week, we get him the next week and really break down the signing class. I know they've been out, they hit the pavement hard, been out, trying to get their guys they need to continue to build this football program, and so that's something we can look forward to as far as football goes here at Dixie State. Signing day next week. We'll have all the updates for you on DixieStateAthletics.com as well as on all of our social media platforms. Be ready for that. We'll do everything we can to get to Paul Peterson next week if we can.
Speaking of Dixie State football, with a link to the Super Bowl, we're not able to get Corey Dillon, alumni of Dixie State, on the show this weekend. I guess he was too busy to come on our show.
Super Bowl champion
champion,
the New England Patriots.
With the Patriots from Dixie State, graduate.
From
there.
Dixie State, played at Dixie College.
So that's the link.
Back in the day. That is the link to the big game this week.
You always give me the assignment to find a link to Dixie State in the Super Bowl. Well, that's what I did. So anyway, it is time to jump into our weekend preview. Let's do just that by starting with men's basketball. The Trailblazers headed to Colorado in desperate need of a sweep, and Keric, the men's basketball team, did just that. They started things off with an 86-61 win at Colorado Mesa, and then they followed that up with a win on Saturday against Western Colorado in a thrilling overtime victory, 96-91 final there. Let's start, though, however, with Colorado Mesa, the 86-61 victory on Friday. A very, very good game. One of those games we talked about last week that you got to go and get game one because game two could be one of those trap games where you're looking more forward to the game on Friday. The Trailblazer did just that, put a very solid statement win over a rival Colorado Mesa University, a 25-point victory. A lot of good talking points coming out of a great win in Colorado.
Oh, this was huge. This is the game that you were looking at going, Colorado Mesa coming into this game in conference play. The Mavericks were 7-4, were 4th or 5th in the conference. This is that game that we've been talking about, Colorado Mesa being the natural rival for Dixie State in the RMAC. Because we've been playing them football, Dixie State has been playing them in baseball, basketball, volleyball, you name it. You just jump in. There's a history there already. Add in the fact that Colorado Mesa is a few spots ahead in the standings, and they've been playing some really good basketball up until that point, and you had a recipe for a very good game. I don't think anybody expected a blowout, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody expected a blowout, and then Dixie State came out, like they did a time or two the week before, a 14-4 run for the Trailblazers to start that game. They kind of set the tone, and they were getting the job done from outside. The Trailblazers tied an NCAA record in that game, not an NCAA record, a Dixie State NCAA era record, I should say. 13 three-pointers made for Dixie State in that game. These Coach Judkins-led teams don't rely heavily on the three-point shot. They use it when they need it, but you're not going to see his team shooting between 30 and 40 threes a game, and even making, it's not uncommon to see his teams make under 10 threes a game. So for them, 13 threes in a single game is huge. Wade Miller accounted for 5 of those. He was 5 for 5 from distance. If he would have made 1 more, he would have tied the individual single game record. 2 more, he would have been the holder. But I mean, you come in, you go 5 for 5, score 17 points. You are setting the tone for your team to be able to win. And you talk about a momentum building win. This was a huge win for the Trailblazers, fighting to stay in that 8th spot and stay in the RMAC tournament.
I mean, not only that, shooting well from 3, like you mentioned, 62% for the game. I mean, very well done. Shot 13 of 21 from behind the arc, as well as, they were just on fire from everywhere on the floor, Keric. 30 of 51 overall, 58% for the game. And then, like we mentioned a couple weeks ago, and I think in last week's show, played very, very well defensively. They limited Colorado Mesa to just 3 of 18 from behind the arc on their three-point attempts. That's just 16%. And anytime you outscore an opponent by 10 plus made three-pointers, that's a 30-point difference just from three-pointers. It's going to be tough to beat a team when they're so on fire from everywhere. The Trailblazers did just that. Like we mentioned, Wade Miller had an outstanding game, 5 for 5, finished with 17 points. Among 5 total Trailblazers in double figures, led by I said, Wade Miller and Dub Price had 14, Matt Conway 13, Pagankoff chipped in 12, and Andre Wilson had 11 to cap off 5 Trailblazers in double figures. Whenever you can get that kind of balanced production and you're not heavily reliant on 1 or maybe 2 guys to get their points, it's very tough to beat a team when they're playing that well.
I'll tell you this. We talk about Wade Miller. How about a cool 17 points, 6 of 8 from the field, 5 of 5 from 3, grabbed a couple of rebounds, had a steal as well. Just 15 minutes of play. So, very well done, Wade Miller. It also gives you an opportunity. Matt Conway only plays 28 minutes in that game. Andre Wilson only played 17 minutes. You're game planning almost the whole week for that game, and then everything just goes perfectly, and you're thinking, I can rest some guys because we have another game tomorrow night. And this was that game, like you mentioned, as we transition over to the Western Colorado game. The Trailblazers do end up winning this game. They were in a spot late in that game, which we'll get to here in just a minute, that it was in doubt for a minute. But this is one of those games that I think you worried about before the trip. Could this be a trap game? Western Colorado winless in Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference play. They were 0-12 going into this game in the RMAC, going into this game Saturday night against Dixie State. And I don't know if you really can call it a letdown. Dixie State was shooting over 50%. Not over 50%, over 40% from the field most of the game, but the game was neck and neck. It was back and forth. What it was Western Colorado, you want to talk about a team hitting threes from all over the place. They entered the gym that night, and they were just throwing up threes, and it was going in. That's going to happen. They made, I think, 21 threes total in the game, did Western Colorado. And anytime you're going up against a team shooting like that, it's going to be tough. So it was neck and neck throughout the game until finally Dixie State had chipped away, got it down to 2, got it down to 3. Every time they would, Western Colorado hit another 3. So they hit a 3 with about 45 seconds left, that's Western Colorado, to make it 68-62. And I'm going to be honest, I'm sitting at home and watching the game on the computer. I'm thinking, that's it. There's only 45 seconds left. I know it's only a 2-possession game, but the way Western Colorado's shooting, that's it. 68-62. And then Dixie State decided to go all Reggie Miller in Madison Square Garden on the on the Mountaineers. Let's break this comeback down. I told you, 44.2 seconds remaining. Dixie State's down 68-62. Television and internet audience, you're going to get to see some highlights here in just a minute. Radio audience, we will describe them for you. So Western Colorado hits a 3 to go up 6. Dub Price gets open in the lane, makes a layup, cuts the lead to 4, 68-64. So there you go. There's one basket. Ensuing inbounds play, Western Colorado looking, trying to get it in. They do, but Andre Wilson is clipped. You see that. Andre Wilson clipped. They call the offensive foul. Dixie State gets the ball, still down 68-64. Drayson, what happens next?
And then the Trailblazers getting inbound the ball right there, and they're silent. They give it to Pagenkopf. He runs a little screen pick and roll. Wade Miller pops behind the three-point line. He knocks down a 3. That gives the Trailblazers a 68-67. They trail by 68-67.
Trail by 1.
Colorado, they trail by 1. And then on the next ensuing inbounds play for Western Colorado, Pagenkopf grabs the steal, finds Wade Miller cutting to the basket. He lays it up and in. Trailblazers now lead 69-68.
Ensuing possession, Western Colorado goes down, and surprise, surprise, they hit another 3 to go up 2. So they're up 71-69. They're under 10 seconds to play. Dixie State races the other way. Andre Wilson gets a pretty good look. He might have got fouled on the 3. They're not going to call it in that position. Wade Miller, offensive rebound, right back inside to Wilson. He scores off the window, and then a shot at the buzzer rims out for Western Colorado. We go to overtime. Dixie State outscores Western Colorado 25-20 in overtime. Yeah, you're 25-20 in 5 minutes of play. The teams combined for 45 points in the 5-minute overtime session. And Western Colorado kept hitting 3s, and Dixie State, they built about an 8-point lead early in that overtime period, and then they were able to hang on and win 96-91. You cannot overstate how important that win was, Drayson, because you can't afford to drop that game at a team that hasn't won in conference play yet. Even with going 4-0 on their 4-game road swing now, Dixie State is still just an 8th. So just still in that last spot. Other teams above them won their games as well. Dixie State had to win that game. It was in question. Somehow they found a way to win it. I don't know how, but I mean, you saw it. It's right there. We've got the video proof. They made some plays. Western Colorado maybe panicked a little bit. Trailblazers won it. Huge win.
And what did I say just about 5 minutes ago? When you face a team that makes 10 or more 3s, it's very tough to beat them. That happened in this game. Western Colorado made 21 3s. Trailblazers made just 10, which 10 3s is nothing to shake your head at, right? Because that's obviously a very well, shot very well from 3. But the difference for the Trailblazers is they weren't out rebounded. They matched 40 rebounds for 40 rebounds. They weren't dominated on the glass. They committed far fewer personal fouls, which allowed them to get to the line. They got to the line 45 times. Again, in this game, and a lot of those times came in that overtime period, and that's really where they did a lot of their damage. So those were the huge differences for me. Is in order to beat a team that's shooting so well from 3, you have to do other things that counteract that. And getting to the free throw line is one of those great momentum swingers because you can score without any time coming off the clock. It was big for them in the overtime period as well as throughout the rest of the game. So that was really the biggest difference for me in that win.
On the first time since being 2-1, Dixie State's over 500 again. 9-8 overall, 7-6 in our MAC play. In 8th place still. You've got Fort Lewis on Friday, Adams State on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. Both those teams below Dixie State in the standings. I mean, you can't afford to lose. Now you got a big homestand coming up. You got to make this game count at home as well. Let's talk about the women's trip to Colorado as well as we move over to the women's side. They knew going into the trip that this was going to be one of the toughest trips of the year, if not their toughest conference road trip of the season. You start the trip out at number 20, the RMAC leader, and number 20 nationally, Colorado Mesa on Saturday, and then you have to go to the third place team, Western Colorado, just the next night, 24 hours later. Well, another wrench thrown into that trip. Right as they get on that trip, Coach Gustin ends up being a little bit under the weather, so he's in a spot where he can't coach. In fact, he goes home. He comes back to St. George, and assistant coach Nicole Yazzie is left at the helm and at the controls of this Dixie State team. And we'll talk to her. We're going to have her on the show a little bit later. We'll talk to her about that and what all that was like and how it all went down. But a 65-42 loss on Friday night. It's worse than it looks. Basically, it's a single-digit game, or it's not quite as bad as it looks. It's a single-digit game. Throughout most of the game, they're outscored 19-3 in the second quarter. Didn't make a single field goal in that quarter. You knew going in, Colorado Mesa was known for its defense, only allowing about 50 points per game. And you knew you were going to be up against a tough one. So that was a tough loss, 65-42. I don't want to feel like we're just glossing over it. We are running out of time here in the segment. But it was a tough loss for Dixie State. But then they're able to bounce back, and they get the big win Saturday night, 57-50 over Western Colorado, who, like I said, was the number 3 team in the RMAC going into that. I think they're down to number 4 now. Dixie State stayed within 3 to 4 points of the Mountaineers throughout the game, seized control in the fourth quarter, outscoring 20-9 in the fourth to help win.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the biggest difference whenever you can outscore your opponent by 11 points in the final closing minutes like that. It obviously gives you a very big boost and a huge win on the road. I mean, a week ago, if you'd have told me they'd come back 1-1 on this trip, I would have said, I'll take that any day of the week, regardless of who the win is over, because honestly, when you can get a win over a team that's ranked above you in the standings, regardless of national rankings, I mean, obviously it's nice to get those wins, but the most important thing is to get wins that are against teams that are above you in the conference rankings, because then you're closing the ground on them. The Trailblazers have played very well on the road, and now we get to come back. We've talked about this for 2 weeks straight now. We have a lot of home games in the month of February in order to kind of close the gap on some of those teams that are above us to get into that 8th spot at least, if not even higher than that. Let's talk a little bit about Colorado Mesa, obviously 13-0 in conference. Westminster, they're 12-1. We talked that was the first RMAC game of the conference schedule, and the Trailblazers played them extremely tough. Now, obviously, the final score might not necessarily be indicative of how close that game really was. Obviously, a few things didn't go the Trailblazers' way, but that's one of the biggest benchmarks to me at this point, is the Trailblazers have played with those top teams in the conference, and they're certainly capable of doing that. And now the schedule lightens up a little bit in the sense that you get to play a lot of your remaining games at home, which is obviously a huge advantage.
You're 10-7 overall, 6-7 in the RMAC. You've got 9 games left. 7 of those 9 are at home. You got to play Mesa again. You got to play Western Colorado again. You got to play Westminster again. All at home. Dixie State is 7-1 at home this year, and that one loss is that one they want to have back. That 73-70 loss to CSU Pueblo, that they had the game pretty much in hand.
And
so
didn't score in the past, the final
you're 4 minutes away, maybe even just a couple possessions away from being an undefeated 8-0 at home. This team plays really well at home. You got 7 of your next 9 at home. Dixie State is in a good spot for this women's team. They're out of the RMAC tournament right now at 10th, but with 7 of their last 9 at home, I think they have a good chance of playing up into 8th, 7th, maybe even 6th. We'll see how they can finish. So we got to take a break. When we come back, baseball head coach Chris Pfatenhauer joins us right here on the set. The Trailblazers start their season just a couple of days from now in California. We'll talk to him to get the breakdown of maybe some weather situations down in California. Also, he'll take us around the diamond, on the mound, behind the plate, infield, outfield, let you know who to expect to make some noise here in the 2019 season. All of that and more coming up next on Trailblazer Weekly.
Do you think people like John McCain and other people would just sit there quietly on the sides, and that many Republican activists would refrain from registering their disapproval in the peanut gallery?
Some might argue that Republican activist is an oxymoron.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of activism.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying? If you just flip it right over on its head.
I would like to flip it on its head, and in fact, I'm already doing that because my own position is free speech is free speech. Okay, and I'm kind of advocating for something that I'm really not supporting in this respect. As far as protesting or not protesting and being able to recognize your audience, what we need on either side, I don't care where you're coming from, is the ability to recognize the audience.
Trailblazer Weekly is presented by the Dixie State Campus Store, the official store for Trailblazer and Dixie State clothing, as well as cheap textbooks, discounted computers, and supplies for students. They're located in the second floor of the Gardner Center and are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week. Closed on Saturdays and Sundays? You can stop by any time because they'll be loaded with great Trailblazer swag all the time.
2019 baseball season is less than 48 hours away. Here to help us preview the upcoming campaign is head coach Chris Fatenhauer. Coach, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Squeezing it in before practice and a road trip down to Southern California. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the interview. Some possible, things with the weather and whatnot. Mm-hmm. We'll cover that a little bit later. But let's just jump right into it. Exciting year. On the brink of an exciting year, and no better way to start it than that annual dinner and the alumni game, alumni weekend, whatever you want to call it. Let's recap that weekend for you. Had a huge turnout at the dinner, a great turnout at golf. What was your just initial thoughts on how everything went over the weekend?
It was fantastic. We call that our spring kickoff. Yeah. We always do it the week before the season starts, and golf tournament was fantastic. Couldn't order better weather. A little frost delay in the morning, but really good as the day went. And yeah, we had 144 golfers and sold it out. And awesome to see alumni, young, old, boosters, parents of our players, things like that, which was really neat. And then the dinner, which you were the MC of, was unbelievable. 330 people, did really well on our auction. And again, just to have our current players surrounded by our former players, including the 04 team, mm-hmm. who we recognized and honored this weekend for their accomplishments, winning a national championship 15 years ago, was great. And the alumni game couldn't have gone better on Saturday. It's the first time we let the alumni play each other as opposed to play us. So we had kind of an older team and a younger team, and it was a really good baseball game, and actually ended in a 3-3 tie, which I don't know if you could script an alumni game any better. And so some of the alumni's line to me was, the alumni still can't get a win. They're 0-6-2 now ever since I've been here. So, but what a tremendous weekend. I want to thank everybody that was a part of it.
Absolutely. It was fun to be part of that dinner and part of the Hall of Fame the next day with the 2004 team going in to the Hall of Fame. I know some of those guys from the 04 team kind of had an impromptu, and maybe it wasn't so impromptu. Maybe they planned a kind of a home run derby Friday night as well. Were you there when they were kind of taking cuts at that?
They asked.
And do you know who won that?
I think they only hit like 6 home runs total amongst all of them. I think they're, it's like when you hit Taco Bell late at night and your, eyes are bigger than your stomach. I think they thought it was going to go differently. But, yeah, they just asked. They said, hey, we're talking a little smack, and we'd love a chance if you'd let us get down on the field. I said, it's all yours, So I went down, opened it up, and set it up. That was great. And, what was really cool was the way that the All-Star or the alumni game tied. It was an 04 team member that hit a 3-run home run. So that was really cool. That was just a highlight for the weekend.
And we talk about that weekend. I mean, like I said, it's an annual thing, a week before the season starts every year. I mean, how big is that weekend for your program every year in terms of, selling the tables, you got the auction, I mean, the alumni, the relations. I mean, it just seems like it's big to the program every single year.
Obviously, financially, it's paramount. We do need to raise money to run our program the way that we want to run our program. And so it's an integral part of that process for sure. But more important, now that we've got it established and we know we're going to make money every year, now it's that important part of our current players seeing how many people care about our program, seeing how many people are invested in our program, and then for those alumni to come back and be a part of it and spend time with each other. Lifelong friendships, remain in that dugout and in that clubhouse, and that's what we want that weekend to be about.
Coach, obviously moving into the regular season, which is obviously what we're here to talk about, we're right here on the doorstep. It's right around the corner, just less than 48 hours away. Going back to last season, kind of a little bit of an up and down year. You lost a handful of seniors going into last year. You lost Dylan File, a junior, to the pros. But the good thing that came out of last year was you had a lot of young guys that got a lot of playing time and that developed probably at a faster rate than had they been behind a few upperclassmen. What have you seen so far from your team as a whole, but maybe some of those younger guys that got a lot of playing time last year?
Well, for one, in my 7 years here, this is our best fall and off season that we've ever had. Talented group, maybe not the most talented in 7 years, but up there. But just when I say best fall, just in terms of their buy-in, their commitment to each other, the way they've come together as a team, how coachable they've been, our best year yet. But those guys that played last year as young guys are going to have certain expectations on them that they didn't have last year. But I think we're going to be that much better, this year and next year and in the future for that group of freshmen and young guys playing last year. We think we're going to play, 4 sophomores at any given time, and all guys that have some seasoning and have been in it before. So really like where our club's at right now. just from a team aspect and kind of where they stand and how much it might be the most guys we've had on one end of the rope yet at this point in the year, pulling. So.
Obviously heading down to San Bernardino to open your 2019 slate. I understand there's going to be some weather complications, perhaps. Do we have any sort of updates on whether you'll be able to get the games in and how that weather's going to play out for the weekend?
Yeah, so we've changed. There's an update on our schedule right now for some game times. We've already moved some things around, moved a doubleheader to Friday. They're going to try and get whatever they can in on Friday, so we're going at 12:30 against San Bernardino, and right after that we'll play St. Martin's. They'll play each other after that, and then Saturday and Sunday are a little up in the air now. I know on our website we've kind of kept it as is, but yeah, there's some things that can move around, and we're going to be flexible. We always are. We've always said, hey, we'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. We're not going to not show up or turn around and go home because there's a little rain. We'll stick it out and do whatever we can to get those games in.
Do you have any plan Bs in place as far as if we can't play in San Bernardino, we want to try to get those games in? What are the options that you have there?
We were ready. I told them we'd send buses down and bring them to St. George, but we always want to play at home. But, we are getting rain here, too, on Saturday, supposed to. So we've discussed some things maybe in Vegas, on Sunday. Vegas is supposed to get a little rain on Saturday also, but we've made some arrangements where potentially we could get a couple games in maybe Sunday. We just want to get as many as we can in, and St. Martin's is coming down from Seattle. They want to get as many games they can in. So we'll do whatever we can to get all four in. If not, we'll play as hard as we can for the innings we get to play for.
We're chatting with baseball head coach Chris Pfatenhauer here on Trailblazer Weekly. Trailblazers getting set to open the 2019 campaign in California in less than 48 hours. Coach, let's we don't have a ton of time here left, but let's break down maybe each position, maybe not super in depth, but let's look at pitcher, catcher, infield, outfield. Some of the names that are familiar coming back, some of the names that we're going to hear pretty quickly that maybe we haven't heard before. Let's do that. Let's start on the mound and kind of move around the horn. I mean, who you expect to, I'm not asking you who you expect to give the ball to opening day, but who you expect to carry that load and then moving into catcher and through the infield and the outfield.
Yeah, we've got a returner back, Jaden Murray, who threw a lot of innings for us last year. He's going to get the ball on Friday, game 1. And then we've got some guys that we really like that are new guys. We've got a couple transfers, Tavita Gerber, who transferred from UNLV. He's a left-hander. Kayvon Kialoa, transferred from Taft Community College, a right-hander. We really like those guys and where they are when they showed up and the developments that they've made. They're going to get a chance to start at some point this weekend. And we've got a few other guys that have competed. They've been starters at other levels. We've given them opportunities to start for us so far through the fall. And a couple of them are returners. Jack Gonzalez, who's a sophomore left-hander, who didn't throw a ton last year, but the upside's unbelievable. 6'5", 215-pound left-hander that's up to 90. A couple of transfers, Mason Foltz, who came from College of Southern Idaho. Preston A, who's been in our program for a while. Brecken Lewis has been in our program for a while. We have a lot of options right now. And we really like the development on the mound. Coach Hamacher, who's in his first year with us, has done a tremendous job with those guys, earning their respect, getting their trust, and they've done an awesome job. Another returner that's going to play a role big that we think will be our closer opening day is Braden Bonner. He's really made tremendous strides, went and pitched really well in the summer and is doing a nice job. So a lot of guys are going to contribute on the mound. Probably, maybe, we don't have those frontline guys, maybe a Dylan File or Mason Hilty, as Mike Dietrich, some guys that we've had in the past, but we're really deep. I really like us, 1 through 14 on the mound. Behind the plate, got a returner, a guy that was on a mission for a couple years but played for us 3 years ago, Tanner Harper. He's a sophomore. And we've got 2 juniors, University of Oregon transfer, Braden Stutzman, who's really athletic, kind of an athletic catcher that can go play the outfield as well. And then Cade Sperlin, who's a left-handed hitter, more of a banger than a catcher, but he can do it. He can sit back there and catch for us. So kind of 3 guys that are going to split some time right off the bat behind the plate. Infield, probably our most familiar guys. A lot of guys that people have seen, the 2 kids that played as freshmen up the middle last year, Alec Fomatakis and Tyler Hollow, who had tremendous freshman years up the middle, as well as Bryce Feist, who's back. At third base, kind of had a subpar year last year, fought a torn hip labrum all year and really struggled through that. Freshman Tyson Fisher, who came out of Dixie High School, so another familiar face for a lot of people. Joe Raymond, kind of a utility infielder, played a lot of innings for us last year. And And then the 2 guys at first base are Braxton Ibsen, who's a local product, and Jake Engel, who's been in his 3rd year in our program. So kind of everybody in the infield's been here, been around. People are going to be able to, put a name with a face with those guys for sure. Outfield, a little new and old. 3 guys that played a lot of innings last year. Local product, Jagan Levitt out of Pineview. He's got a chance to play center field quite a bit. He's hurt right now going into the year, so his playing time will be sparing these first couple weeks. Kate Urban, who led our team in hitting last year, and Brody Clifford, who had a good year last year, other returning outfielders. And then we got a couple new guys that we really like out there that I think are going to contribute in a big way. And a good mix of left and right-handers, handed bats in the outfield for us too. Gives us a lot of depth.
Talking with baseball head coach Chris Fatenhauer, that's in about 2 or 3 minutes, the breakdown on this year's team. And, that was a great breakdown. Excited to see those guys in action and see those returners and how the newcomers fit in. Picked 3rd in the RMAC poll, and I know, with most coaches it's like, well, preseason poll is a preseason poll. Kind of go off last year, but picked 3rd in a pretty tough baseball conference, and an opportunity to go and make some noise still. But did you and your team kind of take that as a sign of, you want to get to a point where you're 1st, 2nd, 3rd probably every year, but first year in the new league, obviously teams over there, coaches over there are taking notice of what you guys have done the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, with Coach Little before you.
Yeah, we're, like you said, it's a little bit generic, those preseason polls, in terms of just your reputation or who you were a year ago. I would say more importantly to our program is just not being ranked nationally, being ranked down in the regional polls finally gives us something to really prove and get after. We've been ranked pretty high usually preseason in a lot of different polls, and this is the first year, since I've been here that we aren't. And so it's kind of nice. The phrase we've been, we're on the outside looking in for the first time, which is great. We don't have anybody in our program that's earned anything yet, from a coach's standpoint, from players, or as a team. So, let us start fresh and prove it. So we're really excited about that opportunity and not necessarily having our young guys live up to anything, but creating their own thing. So, we're excited about that. I think we fit in good with the conference. I think we played Colorado Mesa every year very competitively. They have our number. I think of every team we've played in my 6 years leading up to now, they probably have had our number a little more than anybody else. But we've played them extremely tight, and Mines has done a tremendous job the last couple of years. And there's some other, young coaches in that conference that are really getting after it and recruiting hard and coaching hard. So we're excited at the challenge.
Coach, got about a minute left. We always like to end our interviews with some rapid-fire questions. Just some pretty simple stuff that we can just rapid-fire quickly. Let's start out with favorite baseball venue you've ever watched a game in or been to.
So, I got to coach at University of Arkansas when I was at Nevada. That was really cool. Mine are all college baseball. I'm not a big league fan. Not that I'm not a fan of big leagues, but I love college baseball. I watch more college baseball during the year than Major League anytime. Coaching against University of Oregon when they were early in their deal. And probably my favorite experience in my college baseball career is University of Hawaii. Okay. Going and playing at University of Hawaii, where it's kind of a bowl stadium. It's 4,000 or 5,000 fans every single game. They understand the game. It kind of echoes. It's a really cool vibe there, so I really enjoy that.
Favorite, let's go pro. Let's go favorite baseball player, either current or historical favorite MLB player you've ever had.
I loved Ricky Henderson growing up. He was my guy. I had all his baseball cards. Even spent some money on that rookie card one year, my Christmas money. But really liked him growing up, just how hard he played and how hard he competed.
Coach, we appreciate you stopping by and joining us here on Trailblazer Weekly. We wish you the best of luck this weekend in California.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having us.
Thanks, Coach.
Trailblazers will open up the season this weekend in California, but next weekend it's right back to Bruce Hurst Field, where they'll play host of teams. Northwest Nazarene, Cal State LA is on the schedule, and then a couple weeks after that, Montana State Billings will be in town as well. A lot of baseball to be played at Bruce Hurst Field after this coming weekend. Another big thank you to Coach for stopping by today. We got to take a break. When we come back, we are joined by women's basketball assistant coach Nicole Yazzie. She found herself in a situation on the trip last week where she was all of a sudden acting as the head coach. We'll ask her how that all went and about Saturday's big game right after this on Trailblazer Weekly.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
For over a century, Dixie State University has been shaping the trailblazers of tomorrow by providing a culture of active learning, active life. With a paradigm of real-world experience mixed with cutting-edge technologies and rich traditions, we provide one of the most affordable educations in the West, set against the most stunning backdrop on the planet.
See on page 4 that the projections need to be earthquake next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this. So.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
Trailblazer Weekly is the official show of Dixie State Athletics. You can keep up with all the Trailblazer athletic action with pictures, stats, and game recaps at DixieStateAthletics.com. While you're at it, don't forget you can follow our show on Twitter as well with @DSUBlazerWeekly.
The women's basketball team is fresh off a crucial road win at Western Colorado on Saturday, and here to help us break down that game and much more is assistant coach Nicole Yazzie. Coach Yazzie, I might add to that supplemental head coach as you kind of were thrown into that job unexpectedly this weekend. Obviously, Coach Gustin returned home after coming out with a little bit of a illness. First of all, let's get an update on him. Is he doing better, doing all right? Everything's okay there?
Yeah, I feel bad that he had to face this on the road on a bus ride, too, to Grand Junction. But, you know, he's feeling a lot better, and we're excited to have him back, and just glad he's getting better. Yeah,
obviously, you know, scary, a little bit of a scary trip. I mean, not scary, but, I mean, you know, obviously unfortunate to get sick on a road trip, but glad to hear he's doing better.
I can tell you there's nothing worse than being sick on a bus. I don't care how long the bus ride is. There's nothing worse. I've done enough bus rides myself to know that.
No doubt about it.
You don't want to be sick on a bus.
Yeah.
Glad to hear he's doing better. Certainly send him our well wishes. But let's talk about that trip. I mean, obviously, you know, you kind of get thrown into you know, the head coaching job there, kind of last minute. Talk about, just recap a little bit. What was it like, kind of being the head coach and filling that role? Kind of what were your feelings going into it, and kind of how it all went?
Yeah, I thought. You know, he was really sick, and he tried to coach Thursday night before when we were in Grand Junction, and it was a little too much for him. And he went to the doctor in the morning the next day, and doctor said no way, and I was able to come in. And the best part about it, I like to say, is that how he's ran a culture here that no matter who's running the show, no matter who's doing practice or game preparation, it's going to be the same. And that's what he's built here at Dixie State for 3 years. And it's fun to, like, that didn't matter who was running the show. Our girls responded, and it kind of ran the same way as if he was here. So I'm very grateful for the girls and our staff to be able to come in and still be the same. So.
Yeah, obviously, you know, very tough situation to be thrown in.
I mean, did you feel any added pressure or anything like that, just knowing that you were going to be, oh shoot, like I'm in charge for the rest of the weekend? You know, we got to not only get through the game, but we got to get to Gunnison.
Right.
There's much more than just playing the games that you got to coach. I mean, you're sticking to the itinerary, and getting to the next destination, eating. Did you feel any added pressure or anything like that throughout the rest of the weekend, knowing that it's me and Jonathan Long, JJ was there as well, and I'm sure Bruno helped a lot as well, the trainer too. But
I can't, lie and say no, there wasn't any, but of course there was. And like I said before, the culture we created here on the women's side, on women's basketball, is a lot better. And whoever is game prep or whoever's running the show, the girls respond the same way of, could have been Jonathan Long standing there and they would have responded the same way. But I was really excited. Again, I played for JD and I coached along his side, so I've known him for a long time. So the things that he's taught me as being a leader and stuff on the court. He's a great coach, and the things that he kind of taught me throughout all this time kind of reflected and helped me for this last weekend.
Chatting with women's basketball assistant coach Nicole Yazzie. Not only do you get thrown in, you're the acting head coach at that point. I mean, and then the first game you got to go out and coach is against, the best team in the conference right now, and one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
Number 20th nationally right now. They're number 19. But we feel like Dixie State women's basketball can compete with anybody, night in and night out. And for the most part, for 3 of the 4 quarters, it was a single-digit game, and your team was right in it. It was that second quarter that things kind of got, hung up or whatever, however you want to call it. What did you see against Colorado Mesa that you liked as you were out there kind of leading the squad?
Yeah, and like I said, we prepped through this throughout the week with our head coach, starting on Monday. And, Colorado Mesa is a really, good defensive team, and we were worried about getting shots up. And we ended up getting 52 shots up attempts, and so were they. So the quality of shots, I think, were a little bit different, and they knocked down shots, and we didn't. As far as guarding their offense, we did our best, and they played a really good game, and I felt we played a little tight and not to our best ability. Again, it could be multiple reasons why, but I'm excited to have them back in Burns Arena, and we get another shot with them, and they are a beatable team, and I believe we have a chance. So.
Obviously, after a tough loss against Colorado Mesa, you have to turn around less than 24 hours after that and go face another tough team in Western Colorado, who at the time was the 3rd-ranked team in the conference. So another tough game, and you went in there and you were able to come out with a 57-50 victory. How do you transition in just such a short time? Say, we got to transition from this tough loss because we got another hard, tough opponent. We got to play less than 24 hours. How do you do that, and how are you able to kind of get such a good victory?
Well, after you don't lose sleep going into Saturday and after a tough loss, you try to get your team together again. And we had a good conversation right after Colorado Mesa. We only had 8 turnovers that game. That's a positive that we got to take into Saturday. Did we do that in Saturday? Not obviously no, but some positives that we took from Colorado Mesa into Western State. And then we prepped the same way we usually do every Saturday, even with Coach JD leading it. We did the things the same way. We went to our shoot-around, prep that way. And then our girls responded. They played really well. Holding a team to 50 in their own gym is a big deal, and they made plays. Again, it wasn't the prettiest game, but proud of their effort to get a win. And they were very set. Our team was very set on getting a win on Saturday. So.
I mean, going into the 4th quarter, I mean, you were down by 4 at that point. Obviously it's got to be tough. You go into the 4th quarter of your 2nd game on a back-to-back against 2 tough opponents. You're down by 4. It might just be easy for most people to just we're not going to 4 points is not a lot, but we're tired and whatever it may be. But you outscore them 20-9 in that 4th quarter. Talk to us a little bit about what you told your team between the 3rd and 4th quarters to say, hey, we're in this game, let's go win it, let's do it right now.
Right. Well, one of the things I told them in a timeout was we have to take care of the ball. I felt like we were giving Western State the ball, and it wasn't necessarily their defense that were causing it. They played really hard, obviously, but we were making those turnovers ourselves. And I needed, basketball players. I needed their help, and they responded really well. And then defensively, we wanted to, guard them, stay in front, hand up, maybe double in the posts once or twice with our lineup that was in. And then we rebounded at the end. They didn't have any offensive rebounds, maybe about 7 throughout the game. And by the 4th quarter, we were able to grab one and done kind of thing. So proud of them. Again, that was really hard to do, to hold a team to 50 points. They averaged 61 to 65 points a game, and they're a really good team, and our team stepped up. So.
Yeah, that 4th quarter was huge. I'm glad Drayson brought it up, because if he didn't, I was going to. And not even just the 4th quarter as a whole, but I mean, with 5 minutes left, it was still a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Western was up by 3 at that point, and then you closed the game on a 12-2 run. Where when I looked at it, and I'm watching on my phone, I'm driving around town watching on my phone, thinking, man, in years past, I'd be on this trip. I wish I was there. Wish I was calling the game. I'm nervous for you. So you didn't have to be nervous, because I was nervous for you. But you get Mariah gets a layup off of offensive rebound by London. You cut it to 1. Kesley gets a steal, goes down, and then scores later. Then you're up by 1. At that point, you're going, okay, we're going to do this. And then from then on, your next 7 or 8 points were all from the free throw line. I think you went something like 6 of 8 from the free throw line to close it out and to win that game. How satisfying was it for you just to know that, we'll talk about the girls and how they were after the game as well, but how satisfying was it for you to know we came on this trip, at least we split? Because I've talked to Coach Gustin before too. Hey, if we can split on the road, take care of the Burns Arena, we put ourselves in a good spot. How satisfying was it to know that you went out, you got a split, 2 out of 4 on that road trip, we'll take it, 7 of 9 at home now. Was it satisfying? I'm sure it was.
Very satisfying, especially, again, it was the number 3 team in our league, and it was a big win. I couldn't be proud of our team to how they responded, but also this comes back to, again, our leader who's created a culture that whoever, doesn't matter who's in charge, you do your business how you've been taught. But then we lean on each other even more when, he was gone. And I'm just glad that we were able to come out and give our best effort and lean on each other even more. And how they responded, they deserved that win, and I'm proud of them. So
that's how you felt after the game. Were the girls pumped?
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure, did you watch much of the men's game that night or on the Saturday night? You just get on the bus and go, or do you watch the whole men's game? Or, what's normally the routine there? But I'm sure they were pumped. I'm sure they wanted to stay and watch a little bit. And then that bus ride, I'm sure, was a heck of a lot better Saturday with the win than if we would have lost both on the trip.
Yeah, they were super pumped, and again, they were just a team that this team has a special bond that we normally were trying to get in the past, and now we kind of have it, and the culture is there, and they were super excited. Obviously, the bus ride was crazy and loud, and they were excited, and they finally watched the movie. But I'm excited for them; they deserve it, and I'm glad that they trust me. I was able to lead them, and thanks to Coach who's helped me get to that opportunity.
Long bus ride. I've made that drive out to Gunnison on a bus with football a couple of years ago. Did you hit any weather coming back? You probably just knocked out, probably asleep the whole time. But how long does it take the team to kind of calm down and quiet down and get to where they're sleeping? I know when I traveled with football on those long bus rides, and that's how I compare them in the RMAC, because I've not been with basketball during the RMAC, but they'd be the game I was with at football, they won, and so it was. Talking, they're watching movies, and then 3 or 4 hours into the trip, finally, everybody's asleep and it's quiet. After a big win like that, does it take them half the drive to get quiet, or they're tired, they're knocking out?
Usually it takes them takes them a while. After a bigger win like this, took them about maybe 4 more hours till they all just decided to dwindle down and go to sleep. But it was a good bus ride, and they like to talk and hang out. That's a part of the experience of being on our team, and they just love talking to each other. They're all in the back talking to each other. Then they want the coaches to come be involved, and I love this team, and so it took a while.
Yeah. Well deserved to be able to enjoy that bus ride, but not done yet. Some big road games going forward, or home games.
Chatting with women's basketball assistant coach Nicole Yazzie here on Trailblazer Weekly. Coach, wanted to run it up against the clock here, but obviously wanted to get a few more questions in, a couple rapid fire questions as we like to do on this show. Let's start it off with favorite basketball arena or venue that you've either played in or watched a game in or something like that. Any favorite basketball arena that you've ever been in?
Or a bucket list that I want to be in?
Sure, that would be great.
I would love to be in Cameron Stadium, Duke University. That's a bucket list, and I hope that I get to be there one day.
That's like the Wrigley Field of
college
basketball. It's one of the great
Fenway Park.
The great arenas, Fenway Park.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Favorite basketball player? Let's either go college or NBA basketball player, men or women. Who would it be?
Okay, men or women. That's good. I have 2, Kyrie Irving and JJ Redick.
A couple of Duke guys.
Yeah.
Big Duke
can we ask you why? What about their games do you like?
Well, I love that JJ is one of the best shooters in the game, and he's proven, and he's come a long way since being a Duke, Blue. I'm a huge Duke fan, so that's why my 2 are the, Duke alum. But I just like his shot, and then Kyrie Irving, I think he has the best moves in the NBA, and I wish I could do that, but I will never.
Well, I've always maintained Kyrie Irving's the best at the basket finisher probably
That's
in
good.
the NBA right now.
And I like J.J. Redick.
I
just
J.J.
get a little
Redick.
disappointed every time I think about him because I think my boy Jimmer Fredette could have been just like a J.J. Redick.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, last one before we let you go. Do you have a favorite basketball memory? It could be coaching, it could be playing. I mean, you won a state championship in high school. I mean, you were a leader of a very, very tough Westminster team up in Salt Lake City when you played, and now you've got, a couple different teams you've helped coach. Do you have a favorite memory that comes at the top of the list when you're thinking through all the games that you've been a part of?
And that's a lot of games.
That's a lot of games.
Because you're at a state championship. I did win a conference championship at Westminster. And then, but I would have to say, guys, Saturdays, after the game, I told them it was one of my favorite memories. The first time leading a squad to a win. Well, that has to be a memory, right?
First career win as a head coach.
Exactly.
So you'll always remember that one.
I will always remember that. So thanks to them.
Awesome. Well, thanks to you. Thanks for stopping by today and taking some time with us after practice. And we're looking forward to 7 of the last 9, like you mentioned earlier, at home in the Burns Arena now. With just one road trip left, and then hopefully playing into the conference tournament after those 9 games as well. So the women's basketball team is at home this weekend, like we mentioned, Fort Lewis on Friday, tip at 5:30, and then 24 hours later, Adams State will be in town on Saturday evening, also a 5:30 tip. We'll have those games for you right here on CEC TV, at 91.3 FM, and on the Dixie State Stretch Internet portal as well. Another big thanks to Nicole Yazzie, women's basketball assistant coach. We've got to take our final break. When we come back, it's our weekend preview. We look at everything happening in Trailblazer athletics this weekend. That and a little bit more coming up right after this break on Trailblazer Weekly.
Okay, we are inviting you to join us for Talking Point Live.
Coming to you, not necessarily live, but tape delayed on the Community Education Channel at 9:30, 12:30, and 4:30 daily, from what I understand. But you can also pick it up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/TalkingPointLive.
And respond to us, right?
Please,
on
let
Facebook.
us know, because it's important to understand not only how our conversation is going, but maybe how is it affecting you at home as well. All right? Eric Young,
Jennifer Kohler.
Talking Point Live. We'll see you.
Radio Dixie 91.3. We don't play that. Nope, not that. The big fat no there. That's what we play. And stuff like that. On St. George's only alternative, Radio Dixie 91.3. Oh, and from 9 till midnight, we play this. I need a one dance. And this. Radio Dixie 91.3 FM.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun is gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
The Dixie State Stretch Internet portal and the RMAC network is your home for all Trailblazer athletics live streaming. Don't miss a second of the action. You can watch DSU games home and away at portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. That's portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State.
It's that time once again. It's time to put a bow on the show with our DSU Athletics weekend preview. Let's jump right in. Keric, you mentioned it a few moments ago with assistant coach Nicole Yazzie. Fort Lewis and Adams State come to town for both men and women's basketball. 5:30 tip-off for the women, 7:30 tip-off for the men in both of those games on Friday and Saturday. A couple of good teams coming into town, Keric, in a critical stretch. We've talked about this home stretch in February for a long, long time. Of course, I guess, February is here just about, and so we get to start that long home stretch. What's critical going into this weekend's games?
First of all, just a couple of things. You just said, I can't believe it's February already. This is the time of year because we have so much going on in February. We have the warm climate, the warm weather here in St. George. So softball has like 3 tournaments in a row here. Well, 2 tournaments and then a conference weekend that's a pod schedule, so an extra team's coming in the first 3 weekends of February. Baseball is at home all weekend. We've got basketball at home 3 out of the 4 weekends in February. There's a ton happening in February. So just excited for that. And number 2, excited for the men and women basketball teams to be back in the Burns Arena. They play so well at home, and also on a personal level for me, not traveling this year. There's been pros and cons to it. And for those of you listening or watching, that I traveled with football and basketball for the last 3 seasons. We tweaked a few things this year. I'm hoping to be able to get that back next year as the team goes to Division I. I hate missing those games, and I feel like I get to know the football and these basketball student athletes so much better, and to be around those games. So I'm excited for these teams to be back in the Burns Arena. We've got 7 of the last 9 games in the regular season at home, which you and I will get to call a lot of games together inside the Burns down the stretch. You mentioned these teams. They are very good teams. They're on the men and the women's side. Both Fort Lewis and Adams State are below Dixie State in the standings, but you look just a couple of weeks ago, the Fort Lewis men defeated Colorado Mesa, and this Adams State team is a team that was neck and neck right there, almost beat New Mexico Highlands earlier in the year on the men's side. Adams State, Fort Lewis, doesn't matter whether you're talking about men or women. They can beat you. If you're not ready, they'll come in and they will beat you. And you're at a point where you really can't afford to lose too many more, especially at home. You've got to be, which is, it sounds like you're putting a lot of pressure on it because you've got 7 games now left at home, and you really want all 7 of those. You got to protect the Burns. And so there's a big opportunity for Dixie State to protect the Burns and gain some more ground.
Absolutely. And with that being said, it's one of those things that you can't just rely on, now we're home, now it's going to be the easier part of our schedule, and you can't just rely on that to, get you those 7 wins. You obviously got to go out and earn them, and that's extremely evident with the Fort Lewis and Adams State coming in, like you mentioned, not above the Trailblazers in the standings on either the man or women's side, but that's not an excuse to not go out and play your best ball, because even though you're at home and the teams might not necessarily be above you in the standings, they can still come in here and beat you if you're not careful, and that's one of the things the Trailblazers need to be aware of. As far as the men's side, Trailblazers right now are in a very good position. They are into that 8th spot now, ahead of MSU, Denver, and Adams State, like you mentioned, but they're 1 game out of 5th place. There's a handful of teams, Colorado Mesa, Black Hills State, and Shattern State, tied for that 5th seed right now. So they're 1 game for being tied for 5th, and then they're just 2 games back of being tied for 3rd place, which would get you a home game in the first round of that conference tournament. Obviously, that would be a huge change from kind of where you were at a few weeks ago before this 4-game road stretch even. If you can get up to 3rd place, that would be very, very tremendous for this men's basketball.
It'd be monumental. It'd be huge. And let's not forget what this team, and maybe I'm giving myself a homework assignment. By next week, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the Dixie State men's basketball record in January and February, the last 5 or 6 years, because it's been incredible. This team plays so well. Coach Judkins is just so savvy at knowing how to get his players. We're running out of time here. How to get his players to play well down the stretch. On the women's side, they're in 10th at 6-7 in the conference. Above them, Colorado Springs in 9th, they're 7-6. Colorado Springs in 8th, they're 7-6. Colorado School of Mines is 7-6 in 6th, and then Black Hills State at 5th is in 7-6. So there's 1 game separating 10 and 5. The Dixie State can move too, and you can see the Trailblazers on the women's side play themselves into a home game as well. So we'll see how it goes. 7 of the next 9 at home. Be there. It's got some good promotions and stuff coming up at the home games as well. Baseball right now is slated for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. As the schedule stands, weather permitting right now, they will play CSU San Bernardino at 12:30 Pacific time on Friday. Then they'll play St. Martin's at 4:30 later that afternoon. As it's scheduled right now, they will play St. Martin's at noon on Saturday, and then St. Martin's again on Sunday at 11 a.m. Like Coach Fatenauer said, that's all pending on the weather. We will keep you up to date on all of those updates on Twitter at Dixie Athletics, as well as on the website, DixiestateAthletics.com. Excited for this baseball team to get into action. The softball team starts on Tuesday, so we'll be talking softball next week as well. Next thing you know, spring crossover's here, and we don't have a problem trying to find stuff to talk about to cover our 1-hour show. So speaking of that hour, it is gone. We have spent the entire hour. Another edition of Trailblazer Weekly is in the books. Remember, you can watch the show anytime on demand at youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. For Drayson Ball and the entire CEC TV crew, as well as Martin Kelly in the Radio 91.3 FM studio. We appreciate you for making us part of your day, for watching, listening. We'll see you next week. Go Trailblazers.